Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our research spotlight for this year's Mico Week activity. Without further ado, let me invite you to stand for the national anthem. After two, 1, 2. Eternal Father, bless.
Eternal Father, bless our land. Guide us with thy mighty hand. Keep us free from evil powers. Be our light through countless hours. To our leaders, great defenders, grant true wisdom from above. Justice, fruit be yours forever. Jamaica, land we love. Jamaica, 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 land we love.
I must admit, it's a much better voice than I have. You may be seated. Thank you very much. Our moderator, Dr. Beverly Johnson, and I'm seeing Dr. Pansy Hamilton from our board of directors. Welcome. Director of ITA, Professor Clinton Hutton. Vice President of Academic Affairs, Dr. Albert Benjamin, and Chair for the Mico Week activities, Deputy Director of ITA, Mrs. Sandra Gray Alvaranga. Presenters, Ms. Christine Tucker, Dr. Patrice Bowen, Deans of the Faculties of Humanities, Liberal Arts and Science, the Dean of Graduate School, Director of Continuing Studies, visiting Miconians, faculty, and admin staff, students. Good morning. I hope the microphone is working properly. It is with great pride and privilege that I welcome you to this research spotlight. And of course, it's a key feature of our annual Mico Week celebrations. This occasion is not only a testament to our commitment to academic excellence, but it's indeed a reminder of the powerful role that research plays in the development of our institution and our nation and, of course, our world. At the Mico University College, we have long held the belief that education is not static. It must evolve, and we must adapt, and it must lead what we do. Research is how we ensure that we are not only part of the conversation, but we are shaping it. It is my long-held belief that the Mico should be the center of education research in the Caribbean. In fact, there's a deficit in grounded indigenous Caribbean research on teaching and learning. And there's a gap that we must fill. At a recent conference in the Cayman Islands, I was exposed to the term synthetic information. And I was curious as to what that is. But if you make the comparison with wood, as we have here, and synthetic wood, because we are running out of trees, and our environmentalists are saying that we are cutting down too many trees. So we start producing artificial wood. Now think about that as it relates to information. And AI is consuming so much information and spitting out so much information that when it ran out, it started to manufacture its own. And what is happening to the Caribbean region is because we already have a deficit of our own information, and therefore can you imagine what is happening to us. So this is a good start for us to ensure that we continue to produce information that is indigenous to us, so we have something to contribute to the world, or else we'll be left behind. There's a bright spark, however, as today we highlight the work of our scholars who have dared to ask bold questions, who have explored new frontiers, and who continue to seek solutions to real-world problems. Their work reflects the very best of what the Mico stands for, and of integrity, innovation, service, and scholarship. We are especially proud of the way our research agenda aligns with national priorities and global goals. And it is indeed a testament to our commitment to teaching and learning and to sustainable development as digital literacy becomes the forefront of what we do. This is research that matters and research that with purpose and of course will impact. As we listen to the presenters today, let us celebrate not just the findings, but the process, and try to appreciate the hard work that goes into these things as we traverse our environment and as we do our personal obligations. Let us celebrate the courage to question, the discipline to investigate, and the determination to contribute to meaningful knowledge in society. We have seen a growing number of colleagues showing interest in producing work in the field. And so, to all our researchers, thank you for your passion and your perseverance. In fact, I listened recently at the conference I spoke about just now that one team member from another college stood and was boasting how the Mico from Jamaica have this research Tuesday and how they share their research every so often, etc. And I sat there grinning from face to face and feeling so proud that it wasn't coming from a Miconian, but coming from another college. So continue what you're doing. And to our faculties and the mentors, thank you for your guidance and your unwavering support. And to our partners and supporters and friends of the Mico, thank you for walking the journey with us. So may this research spotlight continue to inspire us to think deeply, act boldly, and to lead wisely. Thank you again. I will look forward to a profitable, meaningful engagement this morning and the remainder of Mico Week. God bless you all.
Good morning, everyone. Today is a very happy occasion for the entire ITA team, and although the welcome has already been extended, we really want to say thank you for being here with us to celebrate the achievements of the community. So we will begin today with our award ceremony. And it really is a series to celebrate the work of our colleagues as they hone their research skills and engage with public discourse in their preferred format. So we're not saying which format you will choose, but as long as you are passionately pursuing your interests, doing it with integrity, doing it with thy might, we celebrate all formats. We are encouraged, as Dr. Pinnock said, about the growing number of faculty engaged in research. And we really want to use this opportunity not just to celebrate, but to encourage others who may be research active, but we don't know. Share with us, engage with us. Let us learn together and grow together. The first category that we will be recognizing today are our certificate awardees. So we have what is called the research track here at the Mico, and persons are given 3 hours off per week, and it is supposed to be used specifically to hone their research skills and to, engage in some research development activities. So under this area, we want to recognize 3 particular persons who met the presentation requirement and or the publication requirement of the track. So it's a very specific thing. The first person we would like to recognize, Dr. B, may I invite you to the podium, is Mrs. Cordell Francis Ferguson. Where is Mrs. Cordell Francis Ferguson? And Mr. Ferron will accept on her behalf. So Mrs. Francis Ferron was the first, I am marrying them apparently. Mr. Ferguson would not be very happy with that. She was the first brave soul from the research track to take on a Research Tuesday activity. And we are very proud of her. Her presentation was about games to master instruction, which she developed further and then went on to present it at an external conference. So we're very proud of her for that accomplishment. The next person that we would like to recognize is one who persevered in the face of challenges and really worked very hard on completing her journal article. Now, when you think about the research track, these are persons who are not necessarily very research active. And we want to recognize Dr. Marcia Mundell. Now, Dr. Mundell had surgery. Dr. Mundell was out of the game for a little bit. But we recognize that spirit of excellence that made sure that she did not give up. And so we want to celebrate Dr. Mundell today. The third person from the research track that we want to celebrate in this way is one who did a presentation. It was a poster presentation on math trauma, special education students' feelings about math, implications for creating pathways for the successful teaching of students with exceptionalities. Now, this was at the Mico Care Conference. And from the title, she knows herself, Mrs. Allison Monroe-Tai. And on behalf of Mrs. Monroe-Tai, her HOD will accept. No? All right, so the next category of certificate awardees are persons who engage with Research Tuesday. Now, over the years, you must remember how much begging and pleading we had to do to get persons to participate. These persons were willing, they came forward, they shared their work, and went on to do other good things in life. Two of them obtained their doctorate within that time, within the last year. So while they are not on the track, we want to celebrate them. And the first is Dr. Marlene Lawrence Grant. We practically have to just move Dr. Grant into our ITA office because she is now one of our stalwart partners. Thank you so very much, Dr. Lawrence Grant. Oops. The other recent doctoral awardee, and she will be a presenter here later today, is Dr. Patrice Bowen. So, Dr. Bowen recently presented, and we were blown away. And we thought that the audience was a little thin at the time, and she needed a do-over. So we are very happy that she is one of our presenters today. Our third awardee in this category is actually at the Mico Care Center. She will not be here today due to, conflicting schedules, but we want to acknowledge Mrs. Tisha Ewan Smith for her willingness to participate in Research Tuesday, as well as her collaboration with ITA. Mr. Ferrum, would you like to just collect on her behalf, please? All right. So the final category of persons that we are recognizing in this particular format are two very special members. One is from the ITA team, and one is almost from the ITA team. And I'll explain. So part of this entire journey involves mentorship. And we want to recognize an ITA member who has been integral with ensuring that anybody that comes to her for guidance gets good guidance. She is available to review the work that you do. She worked very closely with our other presenters for this morning. And we want to recognize the role that Dr. Beverly Johnson plays with her mentorship of persons on the research track. Now, ask and you will receive. That's the message for those of us on the track who we've never seen. Ask and you'll receive. The final person that we would like to recognize doesn't even work at ITA, but she is faithfully there for every single Research Tuesday. She helps out behind the scenes. She helps me with data collection. She is just like, look at her expression. I would like to introduce to you our unofficial ITA member who does this just out the goodness of her heart, Miss Sasha Gay Brown. Oh. And just a plug, Sasha is a certified football coach. Mr. Miller, I'm sure you heard that. Thank you very much, Dr. Benjamin. So, where did Dr. Pinnock go? He's on a call. Okay. So the second set of awardees are persons who we think that their contribution to the community is substantial, consistent over the course of the last year. We are only recognizing activity that has taken place between the last Research Spotlight and today's Research Spotlight. So when you hear all the amazing things that these persons have done, you're going to wonder how they managed to do so much. I am just waiting on the president to return to his duty. And in the absence of the president, we're going to rely again on Dr. Benjamin so that we can proceed. Okay, so these are our IFA trophies for excellence in research. Consistent research engagement through multiple channels, demonstrating personal interest in expanding and deepening their annual research output. The first recipient is already on his feet. Mr. Fabian Miller. As you know, he's the head of the physical education department and a member of the first cohort of the research track. A PhD candidate at the UWI, Mr. Miller is a serious scientist who applies his research to the field of sports. Now, his recent publications include a study across track and field, volleyball, basketball, cricket, and football, and this was at the 30th Annual Research Conference in the Faculty of Medical Science. He also produced white blood cell parameters in Jamaican college athletes of various sports disciplines, and this was again within the University of the West Indies. But outside of that, he has done multiple presentations. One is entitled Determination of Biological Passports for College University Athletes, and the other, which I would want to pull specific attention to, he represented the Mico University College in Berlin, Germany, where he, at a scientific conference held by Akron University and their Ministry of Health, and it looked at variations in hormonal status among college athletes in Jamaica, insights into HGH, DHEA, and all kind of scientific names that I cannot pronounce. So give a warm applause to Mr. Miller. So we await the president to continue. In absentia, we're going to ask Mr. Miller to receive the next award. The next award goes to someone who everybody knows her passion for research. Everybody knows that she is our also unofficial research track member and here at every single Research Tuesday. And for those who didn't know, she was very, very pregnant when she went to represent the Mico in Germany at a moment's notice. Now, she did new research for that in a week, which was well received. They were mightily impressed with her. So this award goes for the second year in a row to Mrs. Shallon Samuels-White, and her German partner will receive on her behalf. The third person that we want to recognize is also a second-time awardee. And he's been on the stage multiple times since this morning, and we're going to invite him back again, Mr. Leroy Ferron. Mr. Ferron is a track member, as in research track, not athletics track. He is Dean of the Faculty of Education and the former head of Professional Studies Department. As we all know, he has an unwavering interest in providing voice on education and general social issues and pursuing a robust research agenda. He maintains, despite his promotions, a staggering momentum with 30 newspaper articles and 4 conference presentations in the last year. Now, a trailblazer for the rest of us to follow. The next grouping of persons, it's going to be a grouping because they move as a unit, and I love that. It is an outstanding example of what team collaboration can look like. They grasp the opportunities for international collaboration as well as cross-faculty collaboration. So this team was, I don't want to say headed because he may not have been the lead researcher on this, but it arose out of an opportunity that Mr. Franklin Bennett, who is the former director of the School of Continuing Studies at the Mico University College, and now he's in the Office of the President where he pursues international collaboration. So out of that, there was a partnership with this university in Malaysia called INTI. And Mr. Bennett was also his faculty rep for research, and he works very closely with us. So his team consists of Mr. Bennett, who we will invite up to receive his award. The team presented a paper at the International Conference on Green Sustainable Technology and Management, and their publication is pending, called Integrating Quality Education and Water Management Through Environmental Education in a Jamaica Teacher Education Institution. Now, I suspect that the team lead was really Dr. Professor Burmadi Briscoe, who is here with us today, and we would like Dr. Briscoe to come up. And we know that this is a special moment for Dr. Briscoe, so let us keep the congratulations going. Associate Professor Dr. Burmadi Opal Briscoe is certified in a million disciplines, but it includes prior learning assessment and recognition, so PLAR, which is a direction that we are going towards. And I mean, if you want to know anything about PLAR, this is the expert. So she was awarded out of that engagement with INTI University, and Mr. Ferron, forgive me for not mentioning this for you. She was awarded a research fellowship with INTI, University of Malaysia, for the period August 2024 to December 31st, 2025. The fellowship also extended to Mr. Ferron, and my apologies for omitting that very important bit of information. So in addition to the joint project that they did, she also had other research papers and presentations, as well as an article in our new Journal of Education. All right. Another member of that team is Dr. Yvonne Jones-Nelson. This is just one team doing amazing things, you know. Dr. Yvonne Jones-Nelson is a geography lecturer in the Faculty of Natural Sciences who possesses a deep and long-standing passion for research. I won't tell you what her previous career was, but it was in research. In addition to the team publication, she too was appointed as a research fellow with the INTI International University in Malaysia. And these people have a very good international profile. You should look at it. I am learning some things from their site, and Michael will be there shortly thereafter. So in addition to the group project, she also did a paper looking at investigating subject choice by grade 9 third form students and the implications for STEM education in Jamaica, as well as engaging in ongoing faculty-led research on STEM readiness. So is not the one paper that these people have done. I wanted to recognize that is multiple things, and we're very proud of them. The final member of this team is Mrs. Denise Walker McCarthy. Mrs. Walker McCarthy is an educator with over 30 years teaching experience at all levels of the sector. She serves as the department head of natural sciences and lectures courses in geography, environmental studies at the Mico. She's also an MPhil candidate, and her research interests have led her to initiate and collaborate to develop several new projects and research papers focused on sustainable water management, irrigation, and water management through environmental education. So again, a very busy person who is also HOD. People, we can do this. The next person I would like to recognize holds a category of her own. So much so that she led a seminar presentation on the very category that she now owns. And it is outstanding example of alternate approaches to publications. I'm sure that by that title she now recognizes herself. We'd like to recognize Mrs. Shauna K. Williams Pinnock. All right, so here she comes. Mrs. Shauna K. Williams Pinnock is a full-time lecturer in the Department of Language, Literacy, and Literature at the Mico University College, holds an education specialist degree in curriculum and instruction from Liberty University, a master's in language education from the University of the West Indies, and I also know that she's pursuing her PhD. She's written several articles advocating for social and educational reform, and her research interests include inclusive education, language and literacy instruction, social and emotional learning, and teacher self-efficacy. In the last year alone, she has written 13 newspaper articles and blog articles, which include 2 letters of the day, 2 guest columnists, 4 letters to the editor. She obtained a special feature article in Education Week, which is a US-based magazine looking at spell check won't cut it. Here is why kids need spelling instruction, not just kids. We're kind of forgetting how to spell ourselves. And her other publication outlets include Edutopia and The Guardian, which is a British newspaper, which looked at let's teach teenagers how to use smartphones. She presented last at the Caribbean Association for the Advancement of Curriculum Studies in March 2025, right before the cutoff date for this presentation. And her paper was entitled Exploring the Relationship Between School Climate and Teacher Self-Efficacy, a Literature Review. Very busy lady. We want to recognize another outstanding member of our team, and this is Dr. Venice Leon. So, Dr. Leon is an educator and researcher with a strong commitment to advancing educational theory and practice through scholarship and international engagement. And out of that international engagement, she participated in the China study tour on education informatization, where she engaged in cross-cultural discourse on the integration of digital technologies in the education system. Her scholarly works, her works are of both the scholarly variety as well as the religious variety. She has authored 2 books, Reflective Devotional Journal, The God-Centered Life, and a Student Study Journal, both of which are available on Amazon. We encourage you to check it out. She's contributed to the national discourse on education through articles published in the Jamaica Observer, including Online Teaching Misconstrued and Reimagining the Jamaican Classroom. So again, the Director of Online Learning is very much into research and very much is poised to take the Mico online platform and our resources to the very next level. Congratulations. I am almost done. You see, we have so many this year. Awesome. So, we want to recognize another person who is attached to ITA for the outstanding performance during her journey with us. Mrs. Monique Jackson Reynolds. She was attached to us for the period 2023 to January 2025, located in the ITA, where she did phenomenally. In addition to her role as a lecturer in the Language Literacy and Literature Department, she serves as a literacy research consultant, course advisor for the Linda Mood Bell Creative Language-Based Learning Foundation. And if anybody knows anything about anything, you know that Linda Mood Bell is big name, big things. Her energy is unending energy. She managed, I don't know how she managed to accomplish so many things, because she taught, she did all kinds of things, while on her attachment to ITA. So she had 4 big conference presentations looking at the impact of STEAM education on literacy development at the JTA's 60th anniversary conference. But out of her work on literacy, many institutions have been calling this lady to help them to figure out how to integrate STEAM into their regular classroom activities. So she is in demand and a name that is well recognized. So there are 4 conferences. I'm not going to tell you any more about the 4 conferences because I would like to focus on her main contribution when she was at ITA. If you think those 4 conferences were impressive, no. She was this year's guest editor-in-chief, not just guest editor, in chief, which means she had to carry the load, the basket full of holes that the whole heap of water dropping out of, to get this volume of the Mico Journal of Education out. And let me tell you, she did an amazing job. This is the first time we had so many persons collaborating, the first time we had so many persons as reviewers, as copy editors, as she even found a little cheap printer for me, and can I tell you, a jump ship same time. Amazing. So we thank her for her contribution while she was with us at ITA. And we commend her for her excellence. We also use this as an opportunity to plug that anybody who would like to follow in her footsteps, we are open for September, so please let us hear from you soonest. All right, and then the final two, and this is a pair. These represent, the final pair, represent the most outstanding original research produced by members of the research track. So a little background to the team. They never really do research before, you know. Not really. And to take it on with gusto, to have a fantastic presentation that was meaningful, I would like for us to recognize Mrs. Christine Tucker and Miss Gillian Campbell. Now, Christine Tucker holds a diploma in teaching in primary education from St. Joseph's Teachers College, a bachelor's in education degree in primary education, and a master's of education degree in curriculum development, both from the University of the West Indies. She currently serves as a lecturer and department head in the Department of Early Education at the Mico University College. Miss Gillian Campbell. I told a little untruth a while ago. Wasn't Miss Campbell part of your team last year? Exactly. So she's growing from strength to strength. She take on new partnerships while she, where are you going, Miss Campbell? Well, she has over 25 years at the primary school level and is presently lecturing at the tertiary level. She has a diploma in education, specializing in primary ed, and later earned her Bachelor of Education degree from the Mico University College, majoring in school management and leadership, where she majored, specialized in curriculum instruction. We are very pleased to watch the sparks of interest shown by these two women grow into full-fledged flames. And we take this opportunity to acknowledge the growth and development of these two presenters. Now, thank you, Dr. Pino. You can go down. So that brings me to the end of my segment, and only my segment because there is much more in store, because we are going to hear from both these ladies as well as I just lost my train of thought a while ago, as well as Dr. Bowen. You know, it's a sign that no matter what I think, I'm actually getting older. All right, so I'm going to invite. Yeah, I am delusional sometimes to think that I'm still young, but you know, things like that happen. We're going to invite Dr. Beverly Johnson to take us through the next segments of our Research Spotlight feature.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Alvaranga. Morning, my colleagues and students. There's a popular saying that change is the only constant. And as we respond to the changes, research becomes inevitable. I am therefore honored to moderate this research presentation session. And we are privileged to hear from three of our colleagues, well, two of our colleagues who will be presenting on, well, three of our colleagues who will be presenting on two groundbreaking and relevant research. You have heard, I'm not going to tell you the profile of Miss Gillian Campbell and Miss Christine Tucker because Mrs. Alvaranga did do that. But they are going to be looking at student teachers' perceptions of and experiences with AI, ChatGPT, at a teacher training institution in Jamaica. Dr. Patrice Boeing will be presenting on Jamaica's teacher training institution's adaptation of curriculum to meet the needs of the post-COVID educational context. As I said, I will not read Ms. Tucker's and Ms. Campbell's profile because Mrs. Alvaranga already did that. So I want you to help me welcome Miss Jillian Campbell and Miss Christine Tucker. And you know, I feel like I am a very proud mother. I'm a very proud mother.
Good morning, everyone. Are you hearing me clearly? Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Okay. All right, so thank you for being here, listening to our presentation. Now, we did a research, Ms. Jillian Campbell and myself, we did a research at a teacher training institution on students' perception of and experiences with artificial intelligent chatbot tools, as I said before, at a teacher training institution. So we'll be taking you through the process and the results. So let us give you a little background. So during the advent of ChatGPT and other conversational tools, people seems to be relying more on these tools rather than intellectual capabilities. So while it seems easier to compare, when we compare both the traditional methods and these conversational tools, it is important that we know that it does not have the intellectual capability as human beings possess. So it is important for us to know that. In academia, so particularly in higher education, persons, different stakeholders, right, when it comes to using these conversational tools, the discussion is increasing. And when we look at using these artificial intelligence, it poses some form of risk to our traditional education methods and assessment. It presents very valuable opportunities to enhance the teaching and learning experience. As a result, we have observed student-teachers' reliance on these tools, and also similarly when they are given tasks to complete. So there were 3 research questions that guide this research. Our first research question: what are student teachers' perceptions of using chatbot tools in education? Research question 2: how are student teachers using AI tools in their teacher training experiences? And our third research question: how can teacher training institutions better integrate the use of policies as it relates to AI intelligence? What is the significance of the study? And if you look at our diagram here, at the core, we have our students. We have at the top, we have our facilitators, policymakers, curriculum developers. We have ministry personnel, we have facilitators, and we have, as I said, students at the core. So in terms of policymakers, So in terms of the effectiveness of these conversational tools and the effective usefulness and its effectiveness for curriculum design developers, looking at a change in curriculum to incorporate these chatbot tool, and also for user friendliness. As it relates to, can't see that one, facilitator in terms of assessment. What are, when we are, as facilitators, when we are creating our assessment for students, AI, chatbot tools, they can play a major role. And for students, in terms of how they use it, in terms of the ethical use. All right, so I'll now invite Ms. Campbell.
So here's the lit review. So first I'm going to look at the theoretical framework. Now, the theoretical framework that is used to underpin this study is based on constructivism and social learning theories. Now, for Denwick 2016, he proposed that constructivist model, it is built on the principle that the brain logically attempts to extract meaning and, to interpret the experience by ways of prior knowledge. Now, for social learning theory, that is based on it was first introduced by Albert Bandura in 1977, and he looked at how individuals learn and how they behave, their attitudes, and their skills. Now, we realize that when it comes to chatbot tools, these conversational tools in higher education, it's like it is moving so quickly and it is signaling societal change. Now, also, these tools, they personalize learning, and these learning are built on students' experiences in the higher educational platform. Now, to answer research question 1, we're going to look at the student teachers' perceptions of these tools. Now, we realize, based on the literature, that the students' teachers' their perceptions of AI, it has only been investigated by a few scholars. And this is due to an overall lack of teacher concerning in terms of how these chatbot tools can be used in the teaching and learning space. In addition to that, we realize that their perception is that, it is more customized and it will bring about, immediate feedback with their learning experiences. Now, several individuals, they view these tools as being valuable. Why? Because it aids in their learning and it enhances instructional delivery, particularly within large classroom settings, by offering personalized assistance. And of course, as I've said before, it gives instant feedback, thus bridging the gap between communication. Now, many student teachers, they believe that these tools are useful and it enhances accessibility, efficiency, and it provides them with the needed support that they need. Still answering research question 1, what are their experiences with these tools? Now, these tools, they provide distinctive opportunity as communication and information tools for digital learning, providing individuals with personalized feedback, as I've mentioned, assist them with complex problem solving, and it offers support outside of the regular classroom, thus enabling the learners to access resources and assistance anytime. Now, several individuals, they view these tools as valuable because it enhances instructional delivery, particularly within the large classroom setting, and as I've said before, personalized learning. But there are challenges in higher education, like for 1, ethical transparency, 2, evaluation difficulties, the user's attitudes, programming concerns, policies that should guide the use of these tools, over-reliance. So we realize that because of over-reliance, it dampens creativity, the need for proper supervision, the need for proper maintenance, technical limitations, training side effects, and of course the novelty effects. Christine will do the overview of methodology.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell. Now, for this research, a mixed convergent parallel design was used, or what we refer to as concurrent design. So both qualitative and quantitative analysis was used to find out student teachers' perception of and experiences with artificial intelligence in education. The research sample, purposive sampling was used, survey was used, and there was a focus group. For the survey, 167 students participated. We wanted 200, however, 167 students responded from all the different year groups. For the focus group, we chose 10 students across disciplines. For research question 1, survey was used to garner the students' perception of AI chatbot tools. For the focus question, for the focus group, and content analysis. For this question 2, looking at the students' experience, and for the interview, it answered research question 3. The data. Based on the collection of data, let us look at the demographics. So a total, as I told you before, a total of 167 students responded to the survey. From this 167, 48% were males and 52% were females, and they were from across the different year groups. For the specialization of the focus group, they were from various specialization, computer, language, and mathematics, and they were equal in terms of their gender. 5 males, 5 females. Now let us look at the key finding that came out of this, and results that came out of this research.
So based on the pie graph, we realized that the most frequently used conversational tool was, of course, ChatGPT. Now, the sections of this survey report, they were coded into 4 sections. We look at perceptions of the chatbot tools, experiences with the chatbot tools, and the cultural tools and teacher training. And the 4th one speaks to ethical and cultural experiences. Now, the perceptions of the tools. If you look carefully on the diagram, you realize that that 77% of the persons actually use chatbot. The remaining use other conversational tools. When it comes to their experience, we realize that there was a 48% who frequently use the conversational tools in their academic discourse. The remaining, some responded that they did not frequently use these tools. The others remained neutral. What are their views on integrating these tools in their teacher training program? 64% agreed. The remaining percentage, they disagreed, and some were also neutral. When it comes to concerning the ethical implications, 49 realized, or they accepted that yes, there were some ethical consideration. 37%, they were neutral. They were undecided, and 14 were neutral. Now, these are the results from the focus group, and again, they were coded. Now, practical benefits of AI chatbot. All participants, they reported that they use these tools extensively in understanding topics that were challenging for them. So participant A, who specialized in mathematics, this was what this participant said. Let me note that the participant is a male. So he said, as a male specialized in mathematics, ChatGPT is a game changer I must confess that I am not into the English thing. It is difficult for me. And so I simply use these tools to generate content that are spot on. If further highlighted, mathematics students calculate not right. Now, participants C and F, they underscore that sometimes these conversational tools, they break down complex tasks, into manageable portion. This, they highlight, helps in bringing out their creativity and organizational skills by transforming their thoughts and ideas chronologically. Participant F further state, sometimes you need a little push for ideas. These tools, they provide me with this. Participants C, E, and G, they say that sometimes the information is ambiguous or unclear. Participant F, an English major, stated, whenever I prompt ChatGPT to produce content in a particular area, as a university student, I check for other materials for clarity and authentic information. These participants, they share their experience interacting with these tools by further highlighting situations encountered, such as confusion or uncertainty relating to the conflicting content ascertained. Ethical challenges. All participants, they express that these tools, such as ChatGPT, often allow them to feel some sort of guilt regarding their academic dishonesty, because such behavior is not aligned with the institution's core value, particularly honesty and integrity. Participant D emphasized, me kind of feel aware, especially when we use it for graded assignments. Participant A highlighted, you have to know what to put in the tools that speaks to critical thinking. Participants B, E, and H admitted that using these tools extensively can prevent them from being engaged in reflective and critical thinking. They expressed concern that these tools provide instantaneous content or feedback. They do not take the time to figure out things for themselves or consider other alternatives. Now, AI and future needs for students. I need my laptop. My laptop. Just a minute. My eyes is kind of straining. Participant. All participants express. Yes. Mm-hmm. Apologize, my eyes. Okay, thank you. All participants express the strong necessity for a comprehensive formal training on ethical and effective use of these tools in teacher training education. These findings, it corroborates the findings from the survey and the literature review. The participants emphasize that training would enhance their understanding and capabilities when they are interacting with these technological tools. Participants A, G, I, and J, their solution emphasize that the institution could provide them some form of scaffolding. How? By organizing workshops and seminars and develop manuals that will specifically focus on the use of AI literacy. They believe that implementing such would provide emerging teachers with essential knowledge and simultaneously fostering supportive environment, and this will build their confidence and competencies using these chatbot tools. Now, all of the okay, thanks. Now, the findings of the study, it showed that all participants, they use AI in their academic discourse. They use it for research information. They use it to complete assignments or as a prompt to garner ideas. They are of the view that these tools have immense benefits. The review of literature, survey, and focus group discussions and interview emphasize the importance of systematically incorporating these chatbot tools in teacher training program. Why? To enhance educational practices. However, ethical principles must be established and set for all stakeholders involved. The participants express a need for comprehensive courses on digital literacy. Change that. Now, the participants, they view these tools as prodigious, meaning they looked at it as being amazing. They believe that, it answers questions, it answers prompts, and it gives them feedback just at the fingertip, particularly for the males who specialize in subject math. A female student, on the other hand, specialize in language, use it as a prompt. Even though this mission would be accomplished, sometimes there's a sense of guilt on the participant's part as it is not in alignment with the institutional core value. An interesting finding shows commonality, and this was when we looked at the content analysis. We realized that participants frequently incorporated certain terms in their discourse or in their arguments, words such as nuance, delve, tapestry, embark, leverage, and testament. When we looked at the content analysis, all of them had a common language. So omission of in-text citations and references in their written text, this also contributes to the lack of academic rigor in their reflection. Almost finished. Now, some participants, especially the males, they rely too much on these conversational tools to present their assignment. This prevented their own authentic voices from being heard, and of course it results in the lack of critical thinking. Another finding showed that some participants were somehow concerned about the information garnered from these tools, particularly ChatGPT. The language arts student teachers, females again, they noted that sometimes the content retrieved was too ambiguous or too broad, meaning that it did not give them specific information that they so desire. Especially when it comes to the free ChatGPT, it did not provide authentic information in some cases. This was proven by the references, right? By some of the references cross-referenced by this language arts major. Here are our recommendations. First and foremost, there should be a declaration policy or a statement. It should be implemented, not only implemented, but it should be enforced. This is a statement where students declare that they use AI chatbot tools to assist their academic discourse. So another thing too, it must be seen and used as a tool, and we know what a tool is. A tool is used to provide some sort of support or enhance. So it should be supporting and complementing rather than the ultimate. To address the ethical aspect of AI, the users, in this case, student teachers, they must be taught how to use these tools responsibly, and I will emphasize as a prompt. Hence, there's a need for training manual. So call for papers.
All right, so this study was done in one teacher training institution, so therefore it cannot be generalized. However, as a result of this study, future studies encompassing higher education institutions are needed in this area. Concerning research question 3, how can teacher training institution better integrate AI uses in policies? For future studies are needed via the lens of the institutions, as the responses given in the research findings were limited as a result of that using one institution. So that's it for our research on students' perception of and experiences with AI chatbot tools.
Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, ladies, and you stay by. We are going to take question and answer. But I just want to make a comment, exciting times, isn't it? I I was saying to myself the other day, boy, I'm in the process of completing some text, and I said, boy, I'm sorry I never have AI before to help me. Because it makes the work easier. Of course, easier. Of course, we have the ethical challenges. We're going to take questions and answers. So if you have a after, all right. So we are going to take the questions and answer after Dr. Boyne has presented her work. All right. So Dr. Patrice Boyne is a seasoned business education leader with over 25 years of experience in curriculum development, teacher training, and educational leadership. She currently serves as the head of business department at the Mico University College, where she plays a key role in shaping business education and preparing future leaders. With a strong passion for teacher education and technology integration, Dr. Boyne specializes in curriculum evaluation, instructional innovation, and educator development. She held leadership roles such as acting dean of the Faculty of Humanities and Liberal Arts and acting director of the School of Continuing Studies, contributing to institutional growth and policy alignment. I'm going to skip some of the things, but just to say that she holds a Doctor of Education in Teaching and Learning with Emerging Technologies from the University of the West Indies, a Master's in Communication, Public Relations and Media from the University of Leicester, and a Bachelor's in Business Education from the University of Technology. As a dedicated advocate for professional development, she has trained over 100 teachers in syllabus implementation and has been a sought-after keynote speaker in curriculum transformation and educational policy. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Dr. Patricia Boyne as she presents on Jamaica's Teachers Training Institutions adaptation of curriculum to meet the needs of post-COVID educational context.
Thank you so much. Good morning, colleagues. Oof, a little nervous, but hey. The context for my research So while they are going through, the context for the research can be found in the whole idea of pre-COVID concerns that were exhibited or expressed by several researchers, speaking to the whole idea that there was an issue with the level of technology integration in the teacher education curriculum. So a study conducted by Roof and Miller before COVID-19 highlighted that the students at the teacher training institutions were not necessarily comfortable with the level of technology integration they were finding in their curriculum. And one of the concerns that they expressed was that they were not sure that their own teachers were competent in doing that. And so COVID-19 came. And during the COVID-19 period, there was a switch to emergency remote teaching. And this move to emergency remote teaching resulted in many of our teachers feeling unprepared to handle demands of teaching online. There was inadequate planning, as emphasized by Hodges, and it reflected the tenets of emergency remote teaching because that was not expected to be something that lasted very long. Now, looking after COVID, the question is, what's the way forward? have teacher training institutions within the country made the necessary adjustments to ensure that if we were to have a recurrence, our teachers would be skilled enough to do this in a way that would not cause reduction in learning loss. So the problem statement for the research was that reported pre-service teacher curriculum shortcoming regarding technology integration was evidenced by the COVID-19 pandemic shift to emergency remote teaching. This highlighted the inability of many teachers to skillfully navigate or integrate technology into the classroom for student learning during the transition because they were not adequately trained to do so if they were trained at all. This resulted in documented learning loss levels at which would not have been previously experienced within the Caribbean or even globally. Now, in terms of a local justification for the research and also at the regional level, the research I mentioned before by Roof and Miller, in addition to the Patterson Commission that would have presented its findings, evidence that they were not comfortable with the quality of teacher preparation, especially as it related to technology integration and their readiness to prepare students for the 21st century. The government would have instituted many organizations to address this, and we had bodies like JTC who would have also seen the issue and would have implemented several training programs for the in-service teachers who were outside of the system. JANSET 2018 would have also called on a regional level for a revision of the teacher training institutions curriculum to include more ICT. There were calls by Leacock and Warcon also, who spoke to the fact that online approaches that were being taught in the teacher training institutions were not necessarily effective. And Golding and Jackson plain out said the region lacked online teaching pedagogy, full stop. So what was the gap that this research sought to address? The country was not short on what is wrong. We have several bodies and several institutions that would have researched what the concerns were. So my research focused on what would have been done to implement any of these recommendations that would have been made by the several research committees and bodies that were implemented and several millions of dollars that would have been paid. And so there was, at the time when I started this research, no local research that looked at the extent to which recommendations would have been implemented by these teacher training institutions to address the several concerns that would have been recorded. So the purpose was to investigate the status or the plans for changes being made to the curriculum of teacher training institutions to prepare pre-service teachers for the post-COVID-19 classroom. This would ensure that pre-service teachers are ready at the end of their tenure. They'll be fit for purpose upon completion, particularly with respect to technology integration, skills, and pedagogy. There were 4 research questions that guided the research. The first one looked at the influence of, what were the factors that influence the curriculum decisions and adaptations in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, especially with the learners. Oh, I forgot to look at that one. Secondly, what were the gaps that were perceived and informed the changes? So the first research question really looked at what systems would have been in place at the institutions to manage curriculum. The second research question looked at the gaps that they would have identified in these curriculum and what were the changes that they would have made, looking at what was done for the students. Research question 3 looked at what instructional changes to instructional or pedagogical approaches will be incorporated. And that research question looked at the teacher educator. So the first one looked at your system, the second one looked at our student curriculum, and the third one looked at the continuous professional development for educators to ensure that we would be fit to teach the students that we were charged to work with. And the fourth question looked at how will the intended curriculum and pedagogical changes and adaptation ensure the required skills and competencies. We had meetings here at Mico also looking at what our Mico graduate would look like. And so the question for that focused, question 4 looked at what was the expected outcome when all of this was done. All right, we're going to scroll over a little bit to look at the literature review, working with a limited time. Right, so for the literature review, with research question 1, there was a focus on Ahmad 2021, who looked at the whole idea that some of the key stakeholders in curriculum planning would be, for example, the government, who he spoke that the government used the teacher training institutions and the curriculum to impact national development. And so they would have been a major stakeholder in terms of curriculum decisions. Their Kim 2020 emphasized that another factor that would affect curriculum decision would be the gaps that would have been perceived in terms of what is practiced in industry and versus what you are teaching. The third part, or the person that impacted this research in terms of curriculum decision, would be Kohler and Mishra, and they developed a model called TPAC. And it is technology, pedagogy, and content knowledge. And they believe that this model would have been what differentiates teacher education from regular education in terms of going to do a business degree or a language degree. A teacher must be versed in their pedagogy, they must be versed in their content, and they must be versed in using technology to make the process effective. And finally, Cheng spoke about the ICT competence and its impact on learning. So those 3 persons, quickly going across to the others, in terms of programmatic changes involving stakeholders in the process, as well as Salmon and Ferguson speaking about the shortage of ICT. For teacher educators, the focus was on mastery and modeling. The research indicated that a teacher educator was not a regular teacher, because in regular education systems, you can go in and lecture, and you tell them what you tell them and you leave. But for teacher educators, there was this mix, this special mix of andragogy and pedagogy, where you were teaching adults, but you had to model what you wanted them to demonstrate for their students. And if the teacher educators are not mindful of that interplay, then we will not be demonstrating to our students the skills that we expect them to use when they go in the classroom. And so there was that mix between modeling and mastery, and that would have been dictated by their understanding and appreciation of andragogy and pedagogy. And finally, for teacher educators, we talk about the whole idea of them knowing the difference between face-to-face pedagogy and online pedagogy, which was something that became very evident in the findings. The curriculum output, what is it that we expect a 21st century teacher to be looking like? They talk about ICT skills, a teacher understanding their role, and also their ability to select tools based on their audience, know what is going to work for the students that you have in front of you at this time. Now, the research was a multi-case study. I looked at 3 teacher training institutions. The first one, institution A, was a fully teacher training institution that was a part of the teacher training consortium. This meant that they did not have autonomy over their own curriculum management. They were managed as a part of a team, and so changes could only be made on the cycle or in collaboration with other members of the team that they were working with. The second institution was a teacher training institution, but they managed their own curriculum. And the third institution was a university that only had a school dedicated to teacher training, so they did other things. And so the idea of using several sites that had different curriculum management system would allow me to note how they were able to adjust and adapt their curriculum based on their own situations that they were working with. For each of the institutions, I used 3 persons. One would have been a curriculum officer, one would have been a programmatic officer, and one would be a teacher. For institution A, the programmatic officer was not available because that person would have managed at that level and they were not willing to participate. However, information from the other persons would have helped the triangulation to ensure that information reflected what was happening within the consortium for them. And I also got access to their manual that dictated their processes. The persons who were chosen for the research in terms of the purposes sampling would have had to been working at the institution before the COVID pandemic and through the pandemic process. I used a thematic analysis approach guided by Brown and Clark, and the regular processes in terms of getting access and permission and ethical concerns would have also been adhered to. So we move on to the findings of research question 1. One more. Yes. So research question 1 looked at the factors that influence the curriculum decisions. And for all the institutions, there was a general sense of acceptance as to what it is that influenced their curriculum decisions. And the first one would have been their industry requirements. They believed that knowing what the market required was important for them in terms of deciding what would have gone in the curriculum. For student needs, that was the second one, and the institutions noted that when they took in a specific cohort of students, they would also sometimes have to make adjustment based on the deficits that they would have noted in the student and their ability to progress. So they would have made adjustments there. And also, they would have looked at the stakeholder influence in terms of the government or other educational stakeholders who would have given them instructions as to what they would have wanted in the curriculum. What I also discovered in terms of a major and I think a significant finding was that the institutions who managed their curriculum internally were far more agile in responding to the needs of during the COVID process than those who had to wait until they had a general meeting or agreeing on it with that external body. And so even at the time of completion, many of the institutions noted that they would have made the changes while in their teaching process, but the actual documentation for their curriculum process would not yet have been accounted for because it is not something that they could do on their own. They had to wait on the consortium to work through that. For research question 2, what were the gaps that would have been perceived in the students in terms of what we were teaching them and what they needed? And so there were no content gaps across any of the institutions. All 3 institutions said that, listen, what we were teaching them in terms of content was on point. Where we noted gaps would have been online pedagogy. Our students would not necessarily have been taught how to teach online. And so that was something that many would have had to implement or insert at the point, and for most of them, they would have kept that there. The next one would have been online class management. That was a challenge. Students were taught, for the most part, management of students in a face-to-face setting. How do I manage students in an online space? And also engagement of students for long periods of time. And it's important to understand the whole idea of online pedagogy because most persons took the face-to-face pedagogy in the online setting. And so we would sit for 3 hours and we would talk to the students for a duration of the period. And that would have caused some challenge in terms of students receiving what we were looking at. For ICT integration, we noted, based on the findings, that there were issues related to differentiated instruction, using the tools and the platforms, using the LMS for teaching. Now, one of the institutions would have been having online classes before, and so the students would not have been new to the whole idea of online teaching and learning. However, they were mostly focused on online learning. And so there would have been an adjustment of the curriculum to ensure that they learn now how to operate the LMS from a teacher's perspective. When you go in, how do you edit? How do you upload material? They were not accustomed to doing that. They were only accustomed to receiving information from the teachers as a student perspective. The major interventions that would have been implemented by the institutions, they would have had their staff modeling. So they use a trickle-down effect where they taught their lecturers, the teacher educators, how to do specific things, and then they asked them to show that to the students. The next thing that they did for the students would have been the organized training workshop, peer support, and 2 of the 3 institutions would have added it to their curriculum. The 3rd institution was not able to do so at the time officially because they were still waiting on the curriculum review process for the consortium. Research question 3. And research question 3 focused on teacher educators. The gaps that were noted: online pedagogy, engagement in the online space, and the use of face-to-face pedagogy in the online classroom. The research noted that there was also a resistance by many teacher educators to learning the skills required to teach in the online space. ICT integration, online tools, LMS, because some institutions were teaching online before, you had a subset of persons who were still skilled and could manage. But in general, the teacher educators for the 3 institutions were mostly caught unaware. Unaware in terms of the skills and competencies that would be required to teach effectively in an online space. And so they used professional development workshops, mentorships, learning communities, and research to guide how they manage the curriculum going forward. Research question 4. How will the intended curriculum and pedagogical changes and adaptation give the students that we are envisioning? Most institutions highlighted these 4 characteristics as their idea of the ideal student. They must have the organizational values. They must be technologically adept. They must have good content knowledge, and they must have flexible pedagogy. Those were the 4 tenets that were repeated by the institutions in general that were common to them. Now, quickly looking at the discussion for research questions 1 and 2. For research question 1, the major point was that the Patterson Commission noted that the curriculum management process for teacher training institution was off. They noted that changes need to be made, and this research confirmed that those who did not manage their own curriculum were less able to respond in a meaningful way when the crisis came. And so the governance structure of the teacher training institutions would need to be looked at. It also emphasized that all the institutions really though had a clear curriculum management system that they would have implemented throughout their processes. Research question 2 looked at the whole idea of providing additional training, but the concern comes from the fact that online teaching and learning did not come with COVID. This was a skill, and there were several calls before the COVID pandemic that teachers need to learn how to teach online. And so the question is, even with the curriculum management processes that we have, how are we in terms of identifying trends and responding before an emergency? And so we would not have that level of learning loss had the teacher training curriculum been responsive to the cause earlier and ensure that those who were leaving would have been competent before the pandemic. Research questions 3 spoke to teacher education, especially with our continuous professional development? How is it that our teacher educators are challenging themselves to learn, to ensure that they are able to prepare students for careers that don't exist as yet? If teacher educators are not preparing ourselves for tomorrow, how can we prepare students for tomorrow? And so that's the question that is the overarching question for teacher educators, and our responsibility to be abreast with what is coming and also to shape what is coming so that we can have the students who we desire for the output. Finally, research question 4 looks at values and attitudes and flexible pedagogy. How do we integrate the values and attitudes as a part of our whole TPAC story? So we know technology, pedagogy, and the content, but we still have to find our way to ensure that the values and attitudes that come with teaching are still instilled in our teachers, pre-service teachers. Finally, as we go down to the implications, policy for continuous professional development for teacher educators, curriculum management and best practices, keeping abreast, is something that also would have been highlighted. And how is it that there's a suggestion for a longitudinal research to look at the impact of the interventions and whether or not we would have reverted to pre-COVID activities having gone through the pandemic. Have we gone back to teaching the same way we taught before, now that we are in a face-to-face setting? Or have we learned the lessons and made the adjustments that would be required? So there is suggestion for continuous revision of the curriculum, professional development for us as teachers, teacher educators, and also a research culture that will bring a curriculum that will be leading in curriculum development that is ahead of the game instead of just being responsive to the challenges that are noted. I thank you.
Two very good research. Put your hands together for our colleagues. Indeed, research that is relevant. And you know, the dictionary says relevance means fit for purpose. But I want to suggest that it's more than that. It's fit for period and fit for people. Yes. So, questions. I hope you have written down your questions so that maybe about 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Those who are online, please type your questions and we'll ask our presenters to respond.
Yes, it's a morning. Good morning, colleagues. I want to say congratulations to the ladies who have presented. Timely presentation. From the first research, a question came to my mind initially about context, and I'm putting the context to Mico in terms of the use of ChatGPT. I know we have already made our own move to ensure that we have policy in place to support that, but I want to find out from the researchers and based on the post in which they occupy, if there is any opportunity from this research, the way we can revisit, especially courses like information literacy. I know within our MTI course, we're making a move to ensure that is instilled, but based on your findings, I am more in a transformation thinking to see how best in other courses we can amplify the conversation to ensure that our students are practicing the ethical aspects of AI. So I'm asking, do you think integration of a course or support within the literacy course that they do at year 1 that treats documentation and all of those things? That's one part of it.
Definitely, there should be training, there should be integration. First and foremost, we have to allow student teachers to see the conversational tools, Chat GPT and the others. Say, for example, like a library, right? When you go to the library, what do you see there? You see books, etc. What do? You have to give credence or credit to the sources. So we need for student teachers to see these as supporting and complementary. I hope I am answering specific and not relying too much. I recently learned something that when it comes to these conversational tools, when you have your ideas and you put in whatever you need to put in it, what you're doing, you're actually giving them your content for free, right? And so there must be some conversation where we teach student teachers that, listen, they're there to help, they're there to support, but remember that, guess what, you have it right here. All we have to do is just to provide the necessary means of pulling that information from them. So use it as a support and a complementary feature.
May I just add that this research caused us at ITA to revisit our ethics policy, and we have put in something specifically for AI. You know, so we want to thank our colleagues because, you see, there are things in the ethics policy we would have somehow captured, but not sufficiently. And we had to put in a section on AI. So you see what research, you do a research at what can happen. People don't understand that when you do research, there are policy implications, you know, policy documents can be done based on your research. Yes?
I'm sorry, I had a two-part to it. Dr. Bowen. Oh, I'm sorry, the glass is not working so well. We share similar passion, as you know, where your research is concerned. And I just wanted to find out from you as the researcher, especially as a teacher educator, and the findings that you have came across, especially in terms of model master. That part sits with me a little bit. And I just wanted to ask from your chair as the researcher, how instrumental is it for a teacher education institution to shift or to, what's the word I'm looking for, to put into practice the master teacher model that was discovered in your literature? How important is it as the researcher who has, you have interfaced with the data, you work in the field, help us to go into that role, because what you said is very important for us as lecturers to take on as we do our work as teacher educators.
It is extremely important for us to focus on the whole idea of not just mastering our content, but modeling how our students are supposed to teach. And it's difficult at the tertiary level because you're teaching adults and you can't treat them like picnic. However, it is important that we also have the conversations with our students. So I had a conversation with my students the other day and I said, listen, this is a tertiary institution. I'm supposed to be practicing andragogy. However, this is a teacher training institution. And I'm required to demonstrate to you how it is that you are not going to leave and teach tertiary. You're going to go into a primary school or a high school. So let's talk about how and what we're going to go about our classes. They're adult learners, and so they can understand. So I said the responsibility of doing your work and being prepared for class, I'm going to expect that from the andragogy side. You are going to be prepared, you are going to be self-directed learners, you're going to get this done. So we had that conversation. When we are going to look at the pedagogy now is when we go to the teaching methods class. And if I go in my class and I want you to learn 5E, then I can demonstrate my lesson or I can teach my lesson using the 5E approach. So you see how it takes place. But we as colleagues have to be mindful of our own limitations. And I think that is where we may have a challenge. Recognizing what we're good at and where we need support and use the community. Because I do believe that as a community, we have the skills here. We teach our students in pockets. And so if we are able to map out for our students what you're learning over there in MTI, what you're learning here, and they're able now to see how it can come together to make them the teachers we're asking them to be. So the separated and segregated pieces of the curriculum that they're getting may cause them not to fully appreciate. So because they're adults, let's have the conversations. This is what we're looking at.
So first of all, let me commend our colleagues for your presentation. AI is really very timely, and it's important for us not to just have the conversation, but to do research so that we can appreciate what it holds for us in terms of the future. I think it was last year or the year before in one of our PLC sessions, Gillian Hugh from Emory University did a research. Mr. Ferron said that he had some interest in it. So I'm still calling on you. She did a research about how the university at her college allows students to participate in an experiment where they are allowed to use ChatGPT and they are allowed to compare it against their own intellectual prowess. And the students at the end of the research indicated that they felt more confident in what they generated instead of what was given to them by ChatGPT. And I'm suggesting that the probability exists that we might want to conduct the same research so that our students understand that AI is not all there is. Because when we think about it, for AI to work well for you, prompt engineering is an essential component. So it's what you ask of it. So if you ask, we know about the taxonomy, higher order, questions and prompt, it is going to give you responses that are at a particular level. But if you ask ChatGPT to answer a question for you, remember it's data, so it is just going to pull on the data that is available and just give you something that is not the best in terms of what you need. And so I'm thinking that, one, you said that yes, training is necessary, but I'm also thinking that we need to allow our students to participate in the process where we are studying our students. And so they will have an appreciation of how great their minds are. Because the truth is, when the rubber hits the road, ChatGPT and the other generative AI seems to be the quick answer. But we have to recognize that it has its limitation and it has false information as well. I just want to put it out there. Not all the information is credible information. All right? And then the second comment I want to make for Dr. Bowen is that, yes, we are teaching adults, but I am saying that it must be more than the conversation. I am saying that we need to use the transactional and action strategy with our students so that they can model what they experience. And there are strategies that can be used with the adult learning, within the adult learning environment, that are transactional in nature, that they'll be able to engage their students based on what they experience with us.
So we have an online question. So the online question is, do you believe that AI should be integrated as part of the school curriculum as a means for more excellent educational development?
Anybody could answer that, really. Anybody could answer that, but you said you are the researcher.
Thanks for that question. Let me first speak of my personal experience. when I write from my heart. I do not depend on conversational tools. But since we were actually doing the research, I said, listen, I need to know how this thing operates. And so I asked my daughter to install it on my laptop. And I remember asking ChatGPT to give me something. When I got it, that was not what I was looking for because I could have done a better job. And so I prompted ChatGPT and I said, you're not doing a good job. Give me something better. And when they said, give me something better, I still was not satisfied. I went and I sat and I wrote down something and I was specific. I said, like, give me for, and I put as something specific. It was still not what I desired. But guess what happened? It served as somehow like a help, and then I could have probably further flesh it out or something like that, and to coin it the way that I wanted it to do too. When we were doing it with the focus group, right, we allowed them. I said, listen, go ahead and use it to write what you need to write. And what we realized was that when it comes to like the simple thing like an introduction to their portfolio, where they had the rubric and it was specific as to what was supposed to do, when ChatGPT gave them something, it was general, it was not aligned to the rubric, right? And as we mentioned before, that during the conversation, the content analyst, it shows commonality with the language that, they use. And I'll continue to say, I said in the last presentation, I still do not know what the word nuance means. I looked it up, and I still, I can't remember. And guess what? I really don't think if I might say I want to remember, because that word is not a part of my writing skills. All right? Thank you.
Colleagues, I'm sorry. I know that we have a lot of questions and it's very interesting, but we are strapped for time. So we are going to take one more. Who is that one?
All right. Good morning.
Yes, and then.
All right. Good morning.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Good morning.
You want to say something?
Test.
So if you may, just allow me 1 minute to say thank you to the presenters. I have to leave to another meeting to thank the presenters. Could you give them a hand again, please? I really appreciate it. And I feel confident in the future, listening to you and listening to where we are going. I think, we need to do this more often so we understand what is happening around us. And we are like the news media. We really report negative news, but there's so much good things happening, and we want to endorse it. And I want us to understand that the greatest change we can make right now is our mindset change. How do we train our teachers? And what are the components of teacher education? And in my mind, there are 3 components. This is the pedagogy as we know. That's what we do, where the rubber hits the road, as we say. And then there is what we call the content. That's becoming more and more less important, because content is now everywhere. What you want is a skill to selection of content. And this is where you're talking about. And sometimes this is the best part of the selection is here. And I think we are realizing now that even the books we are using are person's perception and person's ideological mindset and their agenda. And so we have to come from a frame reference of our own and understand our indigenous need. And you spoke of fit for purpose. That's critical and important. And then the other aspect is the leadership and the values and the ethics that we talk about teachers should have. That's another aspect. Now, ChatGPT and all those things are those tools that we use to enhance what we do. And the students must understand that. And the final thing is that as teacher educators, yes, we're teaching adults, but the research is saying that they learn through modeling from us. We have to model what we want them to do. So thanks again, and I'll keep doing what you're doing. God bless you all.
Final question.
All right. Good morning. Dr. Boyne, this question is to you. All right, you would have had your perspective on quality teacher, what's a quality teacher, and how would you measure a quality teacher, all right? Now that we have a lot of shift in education as it relates to COVID and online learning and stuff, what are some of the elements or measurement you'd use to measure quality teaching or quality teacher?
All right, so let me say that that was not one of the constructs of the research, so I am very careful to give you what my opinion is. Quality means fit for purpose. So whatever the age and stage of education that we are working with, then that is what a quality teacher is. So if I am serving the purpose of my students, ensuring that the content, the values, whatever is expected of me, then I'm at the quality level. It is not necessarily just mastery of my content or mastery of my pedagogical skills, because some persons will master individual ones and not necessarily the combination that is required for effective teaching. But quality is just fit for purpose. So what would have been fit last 10, 20 years when we left college may not be fit for purpose now. And so it is just constantly ensuring that we are in a position to meet the demands that are placed on us as educators.
Okay, hello. Are you hearing me? I am feeling very good. I'm feeling very excited. I'm feeling very proud. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do with myself. But I'm so glad. In the past year, as you heard a little bit earlier, ITA received the largest number of article submissions in its history. In regards to the Mico Journal of Education, the call for manuscripts in New Frontiers in Education included the themes Learning in a Post-COVID World and STEM or STEAM implementation. We are so grateful that the number of papers that were accepted were more than what we could contain in one publication. Give a round of applause there. Therefore, we were able to yield 2 volumes from the 2024 call for manuscripts. Yeah. So we will have volume 9 under the theme Learning in a Post-COVID World, with 8 completed articles reviewed by experts in the field of the research areas, then edited by a dynamic and dedicated editorial panel. Volume 10, under the theme STEM or STEAM implementation, with another 8 completed articles, and they are still in the final editing phase and will be launched later this year. It has been an exhilarating journey. I have an awesome appreciation for the peer review process that we use to guide and validate the authenticity of the dynamic work submitted by our colleagues and guest contributors. All 24 articles that were submitted went through the review process by internal and external academic experts. Authors received valuable insights on how to improve their works. Then, another team composed of dedicated copy editors were engaged to have the works publication ready. This kind of teamwork reflects the unwavering commitment and collaborative spirit of the academic and administrative staff of the Mico University College. We are so grateful to our guest reviewers from local and international tertiary institutions whose time, expertise, and thoughtful evaluations have strengthened the academic integrity of this publication. Your collective efforts and commitment to advancing educational research and scholarship are truly invaluable. I'd like to take a moment to ask all our colleagues in the house, some are not here, some are otherwise engaged, but in the house right now, all our colleagues who contributed, who toiled in the past year with us as an author, as a reviewer, as an editor, associate editor, everybody, please stand. Just stand where you are. All the persons who are involved in that process. I want just in the room alone, and many are not here, for you to just look around and look at all persons who burned the rubber to ensure that all of this scholarly work, thank you so much, all of this scholarly work could actually come together and be sophisticatedly published. I think I made up that one. All right. Behind the scenes, though, of any well-oiled machine are gears that make operations seem flawless. Not true? Please help me to cheer for our Deputy Director of ITA. See her there? Mrs. Sandra Gray Alvaranga. For her continuous guidance towards excellent standards. You know, if we don't dot the I and cross the T, it's not missing her. And not just now, but over the years, you know, her excellent standards towards the production of great journals representing the Mico. Have you ever heard the saying, "Little but talawa"? Ever? Yes? Well, a great example is our little Miss Amanda Blair, ITA's research assistant and the associate editor for this edition of the journal. She is an expert in AI requirements, and she has a pair of thorough, unwavering eyes. Amanda, we appreciate your invaluable efforts. Today, I hereby launch the Mico Journal of Education, Volume 9. Learning in a post-COVID world. This edition includes full manuscript reports and articles that highlight the challenges and issues that emerged during the pandemic, while also offering practical solutions and recommendations to address these difficulties. The contributors deserve commendation for their thorough examination of these issues and their commitment to providing actionable insights for the future of education in a post-COVID world. I will now hand over to Ms. Amanda Blair, who will give you more insight on the authors. Do enjoy every moment of this priceless occasion.
Good morning again, everyone. So let us now take. Hello? Yes. Let us now take a moment to recognize the 14 individuals, 13 of which are affiliated with the Mico. Affiliated with the Mico for producing the journal. So I must say the journey wasn't really easy, because I know these 14 individuals would have gotten frustrated, annoyed, exhausted from getting communications or phone calls from myself or Monique. But at the end of the day, we produce greatness, have we not? So when I call your name, if you're here, I invite you to step to the front of the stage and collect your journal. So first, Mrs. Shalon Samuels-White, Mrs. Jillian Campbell, Mrs. Tamaika Green-Mitchell, Mrs. Alicia Robinson, Mrs. Lorna Morgan, Dr. Burma D. Mackenzie Briscoe, Mr. Franklin Bennett, Mrs. Denise Walker McCarthy, Dr. Beverly Johnson, Mrs. Shauna K. Williams-Pinnock, Mrs. Tamaika Champagne, Mrs. Desireen Burrell Ingram, and I would like to specially highlight Mr. Amakard Brown. He was the only external contributor from the University of the West Indies Bona campus. He has also been the youngest recipient of the Teacher Teacher of the Year award. And finally, Mrs. Shauna Gay Talion Williams, she started this journey as a student of the Mico, but she is currently head of department overseas in Dubai. So please let us give a resounding round of applause for contributors. They truly kept to the goal of ITA, building a culture of quality research in teacher education. Thank you all for your dedication. May the work never stop. We have more to say, more to do. That's it. Monique highlighted these individuals during her speech, but we also have a special treat for our reviewers and our copy editors. So once I call your name, please step to the front to collect your certificate. So from the reviewers list, we have Aisha Spencer. Dr. K. Dunkley. Mrs. Maxine Henry Wilson. Can I make it? And Dr. Patrice Bowen. Trust me, they really worked with us throughout the process. We thank you greatly. I will now invite our copy editors. So, Dr. Desmond Bonner Edwards. Oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. We're speaking it into being. Mr. Fabian Miller. Dr. Nicole Scott. And Tamika Champagne. So I now invite re-invite Dr. Johnson to give the vote of thanks to close the event. My apologies. Yes, my apologies, I skipped a step. So we will now invite Dr. Benjamin to collect a copy of the journal on behalf of VP Academics. Just there. And I also invite Mrs. Leach, our librarian, to collect a copy of the journal. Mr. Sewell, not here. Okay.
We recognize that there was a member of the board. I am not sure if she is still here. She left. Okay. All right. So we will ensure that they will have a copy.
So now I invite Dr. Johnson to give the vote of thanks.
Thank you very much. It was Ralph Marston who said, and I quote, "Make it a habit to tell people thank you, to express appreciation sincerely and without expectation of anything in return. Truly appreciate those around you, and you will find many others around you," unquote. So it is with heartfelt gratitude that I, on behalf of the Mico community, move the vote of thanks, first of all, to Almighty God for his awesome presence, power, and knowledge in creating mankind with such knowledge and skills that have enabled them to innovate, create, teach, and research. I want to thank the President for his welcome and opening remarks, and Mrs. Sandra Alvarenga, Deputy Director of ITA, for conceptualizing and presenting the awards and certificates to the various torch bearers. I want to thank Ms. Gillian Campbell and Ms. Christine Tucker for their enlightening and timely research on AI, a phenomenon that is not only popular, but ongoing and so relevant as we continue to explore its usage and impact. I want to thank Dr. Patricia Boyne for another timely research on the post-COVID phenomenon. You have all indeed provoked our thoughts, illuminated our darkness, stirred our intellect, and have activated our ethical and social consciences. Thanks to the Mico Journal editorial team, led by Mrs. Monique Reynolds, for the execution and presentation of Volume 9 of the Mico Journal on learning in a post-COVID world. Finally, thanks to you, our audience. Well, I should thank the IT team. Don't forget you. thank you, because we have the memories to look on. Finally, thanks to you, our audience. You have graced us with your presence. And in the words, if our words seem modest, indeed our gratitude and appreciation are mountainous for the magnitude of your contribution and involvement. Without your presence, this research spotlight could not be the success and enriching experience it has been. Thanks again, and Godspeed to you all.
You know, it's not like I like to have the last word, but it just happened. So we want to thank our online audience for joining us today. Your presence is always appreciated. And remember, we have given you a nice morning feast, but you need to go and have your lunch and relax a little bit and be back here at 3 o'clock this afternoon for our luminary lecture by none other than our director of ITA, Professor Clinton Houghton. So his things are always scintillating. So we look forward to having you join us again at 3 p.m. this afternoon. Thank you all.